Ladies and gentlemen, live from the West Coast, it's time for Ring Talk Live Worldwide. Your inside look into combat sports.
Ring Talk Live Worldwide, brought to you by the WBC, the World Boxing Council.
It is absolutely necessary that we all get together. We work together. We respect each other. We like and love each other.
And now, the host of the longest-running fight show in radio and internet history.
I'm getting tired of people running from me in the ring. Mike Tyson, Holyfield, you a bunch of bums. Stand up and be a man and fight a real fighter.
Pedro Fernandez.
Damas y caballeros, bienvenidos, ladies and gentlemen. Coming at you from the multi-million-dollar Sports Pylon Studios. Check it. This is it. Ring Talk Live Worldwide. Often imitated but never duplicated. 37. No, make that 38 plus years now of knocking out all bums. Who am I? My name is Pedro Fernandez. I am your ever so modest host. When I say modest, think caps. I'm a 4-time Golden Glove champion. It means I could fight at one point in time, and I'm an award-winning writer. So I'm a unique combination. I'm an award-winning writer and a championship fighter. So straight up, I got a different perspective on the sport of boxing than you do. The action fan. You buy the pay-per-views. Of course, you got the big pay-per-view coming up next week. Terrence Crawford and Earl Spence, of course, battling for the World Welterweight Championship going down in Las Vegas, of course, from the T-Mobile Arena. But guess what? The T-Mobile Arena, there's lots of seats left. I mean, this isn't Hagler-Hearns. This isn't, should I say the word? Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis. No, that fight, you couldn't get a ticket to it. You couldn't get a seat. But guess what? You get all kinds of seats to Earl Spence and Terrence Crawford as of yesterday. So we'll see what's happening as far as that's concerned. Today's show, we're going to retired HBO Godfather Larry Merchant will spend some time with us. Johnny Signorella, of course, Mr. Sin City. Man, he's got a different insight on boxing than most people. We'll spend a lot of time with him today. And wait, I'm not done. We'll go with Richard Sloan. Of course, we'll talk about the Hagler-Hearns fight, April 15th, 1985. Of course, maybe the greatest fight in the history of boxing. I was there. I was ringside. The hit man became the hurt man before you knew it. Bottom line, it was Marvin Hagler on top. But 2 fights later, he was done. Why? We'll talk about that in depth on today's show. Mike Tyson, Muhammad Ali, Don King, you name it. We got it going on today on Ring Talk Live Worldwide. Straight up. Oh, and Shakur Stevenson. What's up with Shakur? We'll hear from Shakur in the next segment of Ring Talk Live Worldwide and WBC TV. Straight up. This is Ring Talk Live Worldwide.
Medallista olímpico para Estados Unidos en Los Ángeles de 1984. Evander Holyfield saltó al profesionalismo ese mismo año.
Fans are going wild, but in that fight, Holyfield ran out again.
En 1986 fue campeón mundial de peso crucero y en 1990 de peso completo WBC, derrotando a James Douglas.
Boza, however, able to Boza down.
But fighting back, he's still legit. And there he goes into the ropes. Holyfield looks to finish him off. Richard steps in.
Evander tuvo connotados rivales a los que venció: George Foreman, Larry Holmes, Riddick Bowe y a Mike Tyson en 2 ocasiones en 1996 y 1997. Holyfield es uno de los más destacados pesos completos de todos los tiempos. Resistente y técnico. Es formidable.
I'm Frank Ripley, inventor of Frackwell, the boxer's water bottle. You're watching WBC Live channel, powered by VIVE.
Hey guys, this is Brian the Wine Punch Deloria. Stay tuned to WBC TV and VIV.
And 33, and this is
We'll find out tonight how much the Ali fight took out of Frazier. The great one, Howard Cosell, of course, the mouth that roared, the man that him and Muhammad Ali were like the best 1-2 team in all of television for a long, long time. I remember one point in time, Howard Cosell went on the Monday Night Football team, was doing a Monday Night Football thing. It was doing this thing with Dandy Don Deardoff, and they were pretty good, but never as good as Ali and Howard. No doubt about that. Straight up, a very quiet weekend in the world of boxing. Guess who was back last night? And of all places, Shawnee, Oklahoma, which meant, of course, my man Tony Holden was probably promoting that, but George Kambosos, I hate to say this, the former world featherweight champ. Remember the guy that I thought had a little potential? I mean, come on, man. He went in there, he beat Teofimo Lopez decisively, got off the deck, the whole 9 yards. I mean, it was complete Oscar performance for the young man. Okay? And then he comes back and he cons Devin Haney to go down there to Australia, not once but twice. He pays him, but the bottom line is he has to go down to Australia, not once but twice, does Devin Haney, defeats him, probably wins 22 or 24 rounds. Maybe Kambosos won maybe 1 or 2 rounds, if Haney gave him those rounds. What I'm trying to tell you was that it wasn't a competitive outing either time. George Kambosos ripped off the boxing public down there in Australia. That's why they didn't do this fight in Australia, because of the fact that he's worn out his welcome, I think, at home. I think they realized he's a bit of a fraud. Now, last night, he took on a guy by the name of Maxie Hughes. Hughes came in at 29-3. It wasn't too highly contended. 26 knockouts. They thought he could punch this and that. After 12 rounds, they didn't think, some fans thought that, well, Kambosos lost. I mean, that's what the general consensus was on the internet. It was Kambosos took a short beating last night as far as the 12-round decision was concerned, but it didn't go that way. One score had it 114. One judge had it 117-111. Where did he come from? Australia? Was that Kambosos like uncle, stepfather, something like that? Anyway, the third judge had it 115-113 for Kambosos, who was a 4-1 favorite. Of course, as I said, Hughes drops to 29-4, 1 draw and 26 KOs. Kambosos, a former lightweight. I hate to say that. 21-2 now with 10 KOs. Of course, the fraud of all frauds, no doubt about that. Now, lots of smack being talked, of course, about Shakur Stevenson. Shakur Stevenson is they tell me he's the uncrowned lightweight champion of the world. Of course, he was a guy at 130, but I never thought he did a lot at 130. It wasn't like he did like Alexis Arguello and Alfredo Escalera and the Snake Man. I mean, it wasn't like Shakur had any epic bouts. Shakur has yet to have an epic bout. In fact, that's what's going on with all these guys. They had never had an epic bout, but they want to get paid for epic bouts. They want to get paid big money. Huge money. Recently, Shakur Stevenson was offered a 75-25 split as far as the champion Devin Haney was concerned. I thought it was a smooth move because it makes Haney look like he's not scared of him, and I'm not saying he is, but Haney hasn't got too many days left at 135 pounds. He's like really pushing it, making 135. He really is pushing, especially going down there to Australia. You got to give him props for going to Australia and making weight twice. I mean, listen, when you go across the pond, I've went other places to make weight. Haven't had to shake a lot of weight, but I've went other like Arizona and Utah, places like that to lose weight. And you've got to find yourself a sauna. You got to take hot baths. I mean, there's all kinds of different preps you got to do. Evidently, Devin Haney prepped himself well, of course, 2 times going down there to Australia. Then Haney has a fight with Lomachenko, and I think that Lomachenko won. I mean, I thought Lomachenko won. I mean, it wasn't like a robbery. I mean, it wasn't something like a heist like George Foreman when he got the heavyweight title taken from him. I mean, it wasn't something like that. Okay, but it was a bit of a travesty. It just was. I mean, and controversial decisions in boxing, I understand that's part of the game. I mean, Muhammad Ali definitely had his share of controversial wins, no doubt about that. Doug Jones early on, that's the first one that comes to mind. Of course, there was the Joe Frazier fight that a lot of people thought the second Joe Frazier fight that Ali, and both those guys were like done in the second fight. They were really done in the third fight. Of course, Ali had the title at that point, time having knocked out George Foreman. Speaking of George Foreman, the grill thing, somebody said to me, do you have the grill? I have like 2 grills. I have a short one and a big one. Bottom line is I cook on them a couple of times a week, and they got it going on. Listen, he started this with a piece of metal. This is what he told me. A piece of metal, the concept of George starting the grill thing was a piece of metal and a cord. That was it. That's how he started. I kid you not. He figured, how can I heat up this piece of metal with this guy? And that's how the grill came. I think he sold the grill for $140 million. Anyway, back to Shakur Stevens, of course, the undefeated lightweight. Newark, New Jersey. No doubt about that. One of the pound-for-pound better fighters, but an epic fighter, a great fighter at this point in time. I think you're really pushing. He's only got 21 to 22 fights. I mean, he's got 16, 17 knockouts, 2016 Olympic silver medals. Of course, Eddie Croft, primetime Eddie Croft down there from the B Street Boxing Gym there in San Mateo, California. Of course, the former WBC regional champion at 122 pounds. A man that fought and lost to both Marco Antonio Barrera and Eric Morales. Think about that. Think about having that on your resume. You got to fight Marco Antonio Barrera when he was on top. Eddie did that. I mean, I went into Eddie's dressing room and Barrera's dressing room before that fight, going off subject here, and that was a little eerie. It just was, because Eddie's a tremendous competitor without a doubt, and he's a good fighter. But when it came to Barrera, I mean, you put him in with Barrera, I'm scared to death. I didn't want to watch the fight. Of course, Eddie didn't do well in that fight, but the bottom line is he came back, and then he had won a couple of fights, and he went down to Mexico, and he fought Eric Morales. At the end of the day, he suffered a career-ending eye injury, did Eddie Croft, that sort of took away the luster from primetime Eddie Croft. But I remember primetime Eddie Croft making weight, talking about making weight, going across the pond, this and that. And the fight that I thought he should have took, speaking of Eddie Croft, the fight that he shouldn't have took was that fight with Tom Johnson at 126 pounds. I think he had the eye injury already, and the fact that he was fighting a guy that was bigger than him. At that point in time, Eddie was world ranked by the World Boxing Council at 122 pounds, and the world champion at 122 was 38-year-old Pedro Fernandez. No, 38-year-old Daniel Zaragoza. I kid you not. I mean, this guy was so old, you could stick a fork in him. I mean, he was way done. So Eddie should have took his time. But, Eddie had some management issues as far as I was concerned. I didn't like his managers, but they took him in another direction. He went to 126 pounds and lost a decision to Tom Johnson for the IBF featherweight title. After that point in time, he was a bit of an opponent. But now he's, of course, guiding different fighters with the B Street Boxing down there in San Mateo, California. Check him out at bstreetboxing.com. It's always good to have him on. Did I tell you who's going to be on the show today? Johnny Sig will be on in a few minutes. Of course, John Signorella coming to do some Las Vegas matter. Mr. Sig, I call him Johnny Sig. And the Godfather, Larry Merchant, of course, the retired HBO Godfather, Larry Merchant, will spend some time with us. Of course, the Godfather, 92 years young. Think about that. I mean, we met April 15th, 1985, Hagler-Hearns. The fight's over with. I'm in the sports in the dressing room, the press conference afterwards, the sports pavilion at Caesar's Palace. They held the fight outdoors on the tennis court and outdoor stadium, and they had this little indoor arena that held like 4,000 people. They called it the sports pavilion. That's where Holmes and Norton had that great third fight. I kid you not, Duran fought there. Everybody fought in that small little place, no doubt about that. But without a doubt, Caesar's Palace, when you look back on it, that was probably. Somebody said, hey, where's the best place in Las Vegas to see boxing? For like 25, 30 years, it was there. Without a doubt, Caesar's Palace was the place. I mean, it just was. I mean, you would go to the bar there and you see Frank Sinatra sitting at the bar. Some people don't know who Frank Sinatra was, but you see people like that sitting at the bar. I remember walking up to Sammy Davis Jr. the day of October 2nd, 1980, the day Muhammad Ali got slain. He got knocked out. He got drilled. He got beaten. He got annihilated. Of course, the ghost of Muhammad Ali showed up that day to fight Larry Holmes, but Larry Holmes was ready, without a doubt. I mean, Larry was younger, ready. Larry had been beating Muhammad Ali up in sparring sessions back in 1974. If you look at the films, when Ali prepped for George Foreman, Larry Holmes was kicking his ass back then. So why did he think that anything was going to be any different 6 years later, especially after 2 years of retirement? Anyway, October 2nd, 1980, Muhammad Ali is going to get it on. He thinks he's going to get it on. He's getting his ass whooped, but he thinks he's going to get it on with Larry Holmes, okay? So the stage is set. We're in Las Vegas. I'm walking around Las Vegas. I walk into the Caesar's Palace coffee shop, and sitting right there is the great Sammy Davis Jr., one of the Rat Packs. I mean, he's sitting there smoking a cigarette, the whole 9 yards. He's got the glass eye. I mean, this guy was a classic Hollywood personality without a doubt. So anyway, I go up to him and I say to him, hey, Sam, give me some words of wisdom. He looks around, he says to me, son, flaunt it as long as you can. Just a little bit, flaunt it, just a little bit, because one day you're going to wake up, you'll be an old man, and you can't flaunt it anymore. Well, guess what? I think that point in time has come. Straight up, you are tuned to Ring Talk Live Worldwide, your inside look in the world of boxing and MMA. Coming up next, Johnny Signorilla, coming to us from Las Vegas. That, of course, somebody asked me the other day, what does Johnny Sig do? Johnny Sig eats, drinks, and thinks boxing. No doubt about that. Straight up, this is Ring Talk, your inside look in the world of boxing.
Want me, Lord, have mercy, look in my eyes. Lord, have mercy. Hide your feelings to revealing you can't deny. Can't deny that you want me, Lord, have mercy, look in my eyes.
¿Qué pasa, hermanito?
¿Ya o qué? ¿Cómo andas,
pues sí, ya estoy listo para boxear contigo.
Presento a nosotros dos sparring, Luis Torres de Moreno de Sonora y Eduardo Martínez, dos grandes prospectos también, 18-0. ¿Cuánto llevas con? 11-1.
Isaac Pitbull Cruz tuvo un entrenamiento público para los medios de comunicación en su campamento de preparación para su pelea contra Giovanni Cabrera, peleador estadounidense invicto, que será una verdadera prueba para el Pitbull, que ha tenido 10 meses fuera del ring. La pelea será en la arena T-Mobile de Las Vegas, bajo la cartelera de Errol Spence contra Terence Crawford. Pero Isaac no es ajeno a los grandes escenarios y se prepara a fondo para este compromiso. Siempre con el mapa futuro presente, ante posibilidades como Ryan García, la revancha contra Gervonta Davis e incluso Vasily Lomachenko. Pero hoy sus puños se preparan para Giovanni Cabrera y en su mente no existe el fracaso.
That's 800.
God bless America, Pedro. Sports my line. Hey, baby.
Now, more of Ring Talk with Pedro Fernandez.
Promoter Don King, he's like 91 years old, still doing his thing. Of course, a pretty weak show, the last one he put forth, so let's hope if he does go forward in the future, 91, 92 years old, the one-time world's greatest promoter, put together a great show. Straight up, this is Ring Talk Live Worldwide. It wouldn't be a great show without my next guest. Of course, I'm talking about Mr. Sin City himself, John Signorilla. And how are you today, young man?
I'm doing great, Pedro. How are you, brother?
Pretty, very good, rocking and rolling here in these Sports Byline Studios. Straight up, We are 3 days away, of course, from Noah, Illinois, of course, a 3-1 favorite over Stephen Fulton. Let's talk about the numbers. They're both undefeated. One guy, of course, coming from America, going across the pond. That fight in another country, in another time zone, another country, that's it's hard to overcome.
Yeah, he's got to acclimate over there for sure. Hopefully he has. Naturally, Steve Fulton, he fought his whole career at 122, so he does have that weight advantage coming in. Inoue is a 3-time champ, but the first time now fighting at 122. The thing is, it's going to be a firefight, Pete, which I believe will favor Inoue. But for Fulton, yes, traveling across the pond like that and, coming to someone's country of Japan like that, tough, deep waters.
Johnny, what's 4 pounds? Come on, what's 4 pounds? That's what people always say to me. What's 4 pounds? What's 6 pounds? And before I can get into the voluminous answer, the Reader's Digest version is size matters in 2 things: pornography and combat sports.
I always love when you say that. And while that is true, and we'll see that also when we preview Spence and Crawford, it's also a similar situation there with size being an issue. But let's stick with Inoue and Fulton for now. Like I said, I believe that Inoue will have an advantage in the firefight big time in those beautiful uppercuts, and he doubles and triples, hooks and stuff like that. 21 KOs in 24 fights. Does that power come up? We'll see. Steve Fulton's never been beaten.
I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but he's probably the best Japanese fighter I've ever seen.
Period.
I mean, exclamation mark maybe.
Absolutely. And, don't forget the dismantling of Donaire in their second fight. That first fight was competitive. And Inoue suffered an eye socket injury in their first fight with Donaire, who's actually on the undercard coming up this weekend on the Spence and Crawford show. But great week for boxing coming up, Pedro. But that eye, if I'm Steve Fulton, I go after that eye.
Right away.
Yep, that right eye right away.
Yeah, and I don't want to say nothing, but when I'm in close, I wouldn't hesitate to clash heads.
There you go, rough house.
Somebody said to me, how can you advocate that? I'm not advocating anything. I'm just trying to tell you, people don't realize it, but things happen in boxing. Evander Holyfield, he was probably one of the dirtiest fighters in boxing.
Hopkins, too, with the shoulder. He used to set you up with the shoulder. Remember how he did William Joppy? That was nasty, Pete.
I'll never forget Hopkins when he did Trinidad in. Of course, that was in the Garden. Of course, after 9/11, 2001, of course, we all gathered in the Garden, the first big event afterwards. And afterwards, we had a party at a restaurant. Lou DiBella threw it, and Bernard Hopkins sat down, and he said, that was probably one of my easier fights. And was that easy for him? He said it was like cutting cake.
It was a master class, yeah. I mean, especially after like the second or third round, when Hopkins was landing those like cobra snake punches, like those quick little sharp right hands, and then end up on the other side of the ring, and Trinidad had no idea where he was. Everything about that fight was just wonderful for Bernard Hopkins. It was like the perfect night for him. Couldn't ask for a better performance.
Okay, but let's be honest. Trinidad was 147-pounder at his best, and these guys are fighting at 160, which means that Hopkins, even though he's disciplined, he'd probably walk into the ring about 170 pounds.
That's why I collected money that night, because I bet on Hopkins, and I told everyone that would listen that Hopkins was too big.
Size matters in 2 things: pornography and combat sports. Now, I got to ask you about Inoue, though. The fact, the injury factor, but this hand wrap thing. Of course, we went through the hand wrap thing, and I explained, of course, how Aaron Pryor's hands were wrapped for the first Alexis Arguello fight. They wrapped regular bandage around his hand, and then they wrapped plaster of Paris around his hand, and then they wrapped a regular bandage over the plaster of Paris. So when the inspector came to check his hands, he goes like, he tucks the hand. He goes, yeah, everything's padded, everything's fine. So then when the inspector leaves, Panama Lewis takes a spray bottle, and he sprays water on the on the wrap. So the wrap turns into a cast. So in other words, when you have a broken arm, that's what Aaron Pryor was throwing at Alexis Arguello that night. That's what broke Alexis Arguello down. Of course, Panama Lewis, the trainer of note, of course, he wasn't caught until June of 1983 when he did that to Luis Resto and Billy Collins. Of course, that ended that essentially ended Billy Collins' life. I don't know if you were around back then, but that was the end of Billy Collins.
Oh, that was horrible. That was horrible what happened to that boy. Stacking your hands, like stacking on steroids, like super stacks.
But they did, but they couldn't cheat enough to wrap their hands in casts. They had to take the padding out of the gloves, too.
Oh, yeah. They took the padding out and everything. Horrible what they did to that man.
Yeah, so Panama, I remember I took that slap at Panama Lewis in St. Louis. Don King knew it. Don King knew I was dead. I was dead because he's walking my way. I took my coat off. And Don's watching this. Don's one of these guys, he observes. He's an observer, okay? He observes things. He saw exactly what was going on. He says, what is Pedro pump? What's he getting pumped up for? It was Panama Lewis. I was not going to let him get by me without letting him know, because I went after the Pennsylvania Boxing Commission for giving him a license. I mean, they gave him a license after he did what he did.
I know, man. And especially with you in the room, Don's got to know you're going to ask some questions.
Yeah, but I wasn't asking questions that day. I was ready to throw on Panama. I wanted to make a mark. I wanted to make a mark right then. I mean, I thought he was the biggest disgrace in the history of boxing. At that point in time, I was boxing 24/7, more than 365, 366, even on a non-leap year. So what I'm trying to say is I lived, died, and dreamed boxing at that point in time. When I saw Panama Lewis and realized what they had done to Alexis Arguello, let me tell you, it broke Alexis down. Alexis never smoked crack. Alexis wasn't a big drinker before that happened to him, but that ruined his life. It broke him down mentally. It broke him down physically because he peaked. He trained his absolute best for that age. Of course, he was probably fighting in a weight class that was probably 6 or 8 pounds bigger than he normally was. But the bottom line is he was fighting at 140 pounds, the junior welterweight limit. His peak was probably 135. But fighting at 140, he gave it his all, and he was beaten. And when they pulled that special bottle thing, see, Alexis was all tripping out on the special bottle, because Panama Lewis said before that 14th round or before that last round in Pryor's corner, he said, give me the special bottle, the one I mixed, the special bottle. Well, all that was, get this, chopped up adrenaline pills. There was asthma pills. It was just genius stuff, though. Johnny Sig, that's genius stuff. I mean, I wouldn't mind using the oxygen pills. I mean, if I could sneak that in the corner, I'd do it. But you don't do the hand thing.
No, you don't do the hand thing. And he did go out like a house on fire, Pete, when he got that special bottle. And that was something to see, man. That was my father's favorite fighter, Alexis Arguello, and to study him was always a treasure. But, that was a terrible thing that happened to him that night.
I remember going down to Managua, Nicaragua, and I told him the great late Jose Sulaiman, president of the World Boxing Council, Mr. WBC himself. Hey, Jose, I know you're looking down on me. This straight up, this is WBC TV, something you and I talked about 25 years ago. But, when Alexis was on this show, I had his wife on the show, and we were talking back and forth through an interpreter in Las Vegas. And the wife says to me, Alexis is smoking powder out of a can. I said, what do you mean out of a can? She goes, a Coke can. I said, Coke? Anyway, she goes, no, Pepsi. What are you talking about? Anyway, what I figured out was Alexis was smoking crack. Okay? So anyway, she's snitching him off on the radio all around the world. He's smoking crack back in 1989. So Alexis grabs the phone out of her hand and says, Pedro. I said, yeah. He goes, this is Alexis. I said, yeah. He goes, I don't want to live no more. I said, whoa. So anyway, I didn't know how to deal with that. I never had anybody talk about suicide on the air. So I get off the air with him. I don't know what to do. About an hour later, it's late California time, so it's even later down there in Mexico City. I guess about 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, I call Jose Sulaiman, and his wife says, I need to talk to Jose. I said in my broken down Spanish, I really need to talk to Jose, please. And when Jose got on the phone, I said to him, Alexis he's talking about committing suicide. He goes, really? He told you? I said, he said it on the radio. He goes, what? He goes, yeah, he said it on the radio. So he goes, oh man, he goes, what are we going to do? I said, I don't know. I said, why don't, I said, I tell you what, why don't I go down there and we drag him back to San Francisco, put him in rehab here in the city. There's all kinds of Nicaraguans there. He can get off on his people here without a doubt. He goes, yeah, okay. He goes, so but that's going to cost a lot of money, Jose. He goes, how much money do you think it'll cost? And I didn't have a clue, Johnny Sig. I didn't have a clue. 1989 rehab. I said, 40 grand. He said, okay, I'll wire you the $40,000. And that's exactly what he did. He wired me $40,000 to take down to Nicaragua to bring Alexis and his family back to San Francisco. Of course, Alexis said no. We had a big conference. What do they call it? When you confront people and when they're on dope, you have this big conference. You bring in the priest, you bring in like his wife, you bring in the counselor, all these different people. And we had this big confrontation over the crack cocaine. Alexa said, I'm not a junkie. I'm not an addict. I'm not going to go to rehab, this and that. Of course, 3 months later, he got in a car accident. And the Nicaraguan government told him, guess what? Pedro was right. Either you go to rehab or you go to jail. And he went to rehab. But Johnny, that fight, you can see why your dad was his favorite. That was his favorite fight. You can see why that broke him forever.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. And like I said, it was a treasure to study him at his best, that technique, the way he would throw punches, textbook, but natural and fluid, not stiff. just a great fighter, man. They don't make him like that no more, Pete.
I remember him telling me, oh, this is what I remember him telling me before the Aguero Pryor fight, I had lost a Golden Glove championship fight, 3-2 split to Mike Christie. I thought I won without a doubt. They took away 2 points. Mike, all due respect, but they took away 2 points, and it was still a draw after 3 rounds. They gave it to you. Anyway, but the bottom line was, I lost this fight, and I said to Alexis at the prior press conference here in San Francisco, I was here with Jack Fisk, a great boxing writer. I said to him, I got physically ready. How do you get mentally ready? And he said to me, if you train and put 200% into your physical training, the mental conditioning will come right into play.
It's absolutely correct.
And it was. And, of course, I would go out and win 3 Golden Glove titles in a row, 3 title fights in a row, and then lose that 4th one and come back and win again. But the bottom line is, without him, God knows where we'll be. Straight up, I'm done for this segment. Straight up, Johnny Stig will stick around. I'll give him some time on the other side of the break. You are tuned to the longest-running fight show in history, Ring Talk Live worldwide on WBC TV.
Lord, have mercy, look in my eyes.
De la clase masiva de box más grande del mundo 2023. Así que vamos para el knockout.
I am the Tasmanian Devil, 5-time world champion. Tune in to the WBC. Tune in.
Mucha fuerza al término de cada episodio y en esta, evidentemente, siendo el hombre de casa.
Hey guys, this is Brian the Wine Punch Valoria. Stay tuned to WBC TV and VIVE.
258.
Darkest of night with the moon shining bright. There's a set going strong, a lot of things going on. The man of the hour has an air of great power. The dudes have envied him for so long. Oh,
My mother said it's not bragging when you're telling the truth. Son, just don't tell the truth too often because people get upset when you get honest. Straight up, you are tuned to Ring Talk Live Worldwide, your inside look at the world of boxing and MMA. Let's talk about Kambosos for a minute. Very unimpressive last night. Johnny Sig?
Yeah, I thought it was a draw, Pete.
Well, I don't know about that. I just, listen, here's what's up. How can you have such an epic performance against Teofimo Lopez and then, like, be so pathetic afterwards? Was he pathetic beforehand and Lopez was not up to snuff? What's going on there?
I think he's just average, and I think Lopez had a bad night, some stuff going on at home maybe, some health issues I heard. You know, for Kambosos, I mean, last night he fought a southpaw that had, you know, a great work rate last night, came to fight, and for Kambosos, he hasn't fought a southpaw in a while. It showed. Poor positioning, got nailed with straight lefts constantly. Like I said, in my opinion, I don't really think he won that fight. I got draw at best. And, you know, for Hughes, like I said, good work rate. But was Kambosos one and done? I think so. I think last night was a strong indication that that's going to be his career-defining fight. And now he's going to be a good journeyman.
Okay, you talked about the health involved of Teofimo Lopez. Were you talking about mental health?
I think a little bit of both, if I'm not mistaken. I read some things. I don't want to go on record, you know, to say exactly what it was, but I think there was some issues at home or something. I'm not really sure.
Listen, does a father do a lot of coke? I don't talk about the coke I do. Of course, I do. No, time out. Let me get this straight. I do Mexican coke. People are freaking out. Remember, my producer freaked out the other one when I said this the first time. I don't do Colombian coke. I do Mexican coke. It's in a 12-ounce bottle. I buy it from, you know, they bring it in here. But the bottom line is that's about it as far as my coke's concerned. Anyway, go on.
No, that's really about it. You know, Teofimo looked good in his last fight. For me, Kambosos, I mean, where's he going to go? 135 is stacked. I mean, Isaac Cruz got a great assignment coming up on the undercard of Spence in Crawford, you know, against Giovanni Cabrera, who's unbeaten. You know,
let's go through the undercard first. Let's start with that fight. Let's break it down. Go ahead.
Isaac Cruz, Giovanni Cabrera, you know, you're fighting at 135. It's for elimination at WBC and WBA rankings. And Isaac Cruz, 24-2, one draw. And the guy that mentioned Cabrera unbeaten. That's actually a great co-feature. Then we got Donaire, you know, fighting for a vacated WBC Bantam World Championship against Alexandro Santiago.
He's older than me.
Oh, both guys been around.
He's 40 years old. You know what that is in the world of boxing? That's like, holy cow.
Off the top of my mind, that's all I got. Then, of course, we got the big one, Spence and Crawford, man. I cannot wait.
Okay, listen, as far as the fight's concerned, of course, Crawford, a guy that started off at 135, Spence, a guy that came down from 154. Of course, these guys are meeting in the middle at 147. Can Errol Spence make this weight and fight 12 rounds?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, it depends on how much, you know, Crawford uses those skills and angles and all that kind of stuff, like down the stretch of a fight. That could actually be taxing on both men. But Spence has the size, long-term welterweight. We know that fought one time or twice at 154, I believe. And, you know, we'll see what we got. We got size versus skills and angles, in my opinion. The size of Spence versus the skill of Crawford.
So the straight shots of Spence with the height and reach advantage, could that be like what the fight is all about all night? In other words, like Spence just sticking him with a jab, and when he wants to come in, he'll get the right hand. In other words, what I'm trying to tell you is that Crawford's the smaller of the two guys, without a doubt.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great observation, Pete, because with Spence, he's actually really good at straight shots to the body. He'll start at the body and work his way to the head, and he shoots hooks, beautiful hooks from both hands on the inside. Works great on the inside. So for me, a key to victory for Crawford is to win the inside battle early with uppercuts, because Crawford is very good at counter uppercuts, and I think he's got to piss off Spence a little bit, you know, with switching stances and all that kind of stuff. Getting in his head. This is a great fight. It's a definition of a pick'em fight. Everybody's changing their mind constantly. They're, you know, both guys are great counter punchers, or they're quick to the punch and blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, these guys are going to get in the ring and dance. And this is for the hardcores and the fans of the sport in general, man. Now, is it getting the buzz? I know where you're going to go next. Is it getting the buzz that, you know, Garcia got, you know, when he fought Davis out here? Not even close.
Well, yeah, not even close. There's all kinds of tickets out there. I mean, Socrates said to me yesterday, you could buy a whole row.
Yeah, bring your boys. Come on by. Come on by. There's plenty of tickets.
I mean, this is the T-Mobile Arena. So are they going to do the paper? Are they going to paper the house? And it was going to do what I mean by paper the house is like give tickets to like Boy Scouts and things like that. You know, different fraternity groups.
I hope so. They could throw some my way. I'll go.
But yeah, I know. But is that fine? Well, I mean, the bottom line is, I think a ringside seat's going for like $2,500.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yep.
Holy, I mean, $2,500 to go see a fight. I don't know. You know what it was? Maybe because I got to see all those fights for free during the golden era, I couldn't fathom paying that kind of money for a fight.
Yeah, you can't do that. Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. You know, I mean, it's the price of everything, especially this pay-per-view. I think is going for $84.99, and they're still hitting you with the HD fee, dude. It's 2023. Where are they going with this HD fee? Everyone's had high definition since like forever now. They still hit you with the fee.
You know,
so you're talking $100,
Johnny. Don't they make? Aren't they like? I don't say they're putting a gun to people's head and making them steal, but aren't they making it so hard for people to buy things that they have to steal it?
Yes.
I mean, I hate to put it to you that way, but if you were like if you were to watch one UFC event month, like that's $80, and then watch this, that's $80, and you told me the high def's a little bit more, so we're talking like close to $200. Who can afford that per month?
You know what I'm saying? That's a lot of explaining to do to your wife. If you're married, you got a family, and you're dropping like $1,000 a month on combat sports.
Exactly. Now, if you're dropping $1,000, now see, now that's why porn is free. I remember in the old days when I was a private investigator, and people would hire me like to look into their husband's background, this and I go through their internet things and this and that. You would not believe the things that people look up. I mean, it's like mind blowing. He just says, I mean, animals, people, you name it. People are weirdos. Hey, that's what you got to do sometime is look up somebody's internet. What they look up on the internet, I mean, it just doesn't fit the person. You know, I mean, you look at the person, you say, this guy's a weirdo.
It's the quiet ones. You got to watch out.
It's my business, no doubt about that. All right, so Spence's a slight favorite here.
I think Crawford's going to win.
I'll say it again. Spence's a slight favorite, though, on the betting yards.
Yeah, tight. It's like right there, man. It's neck and neck. Last time I checked, it's right there. So I think it might go back and forth come fight night. You know, and let's talk. We were talking about eyes before too. You know, Spence does have an issue with that eye. I want to bring that up real quick from the car accident and stuff. Remember, he was supposed to fight Pacquiao at one point in time, and that fight got canceled because of that. Nobody's talking about this eye much. And the thing is, you know, obviously he's fought since then. It held up, but hey, again, Terrence Crawford is crafty. He throws uppercuts. He throws things that hit sockets nicely, cleanly, hard. So he's gonna have to watch that. That's a nice little look there, intangible.
Yeah, of course, he bled around the retina, which indicates it was a brain bleed. In other words, it was a concussion. He didn't walk away from that unscathed, no doubt about that. But Earl Spence issued a statement yesterday, or the day before yesterday, said he hasn't had sex in 8 weeks, and he winked. Do you know what that means?
Yeah, he's been hitting the internet a lot. Maybe.
No. That means he hasn't smoked any weed in 8 weeks.
Oh, you put the 2 and 2 together?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. I mean, because the guy, every time I looked at Earl Spence, he looked like Buzz. Say, hey, what's happening, bud? I mean, come on, he was always a little Buzz. But he's been the last 8 weeks, 10 weeks, man. You look at the videos of him, he's straight, he's focused. I mean, I think we'll get the very best of Earl Spence without a doubt. We'll get the very best of Terrence Crawford. But does it add up to Hagler-Hearns of 2023?
I don't think anything ever will, but it can in its own right. This is now the era of the modern athlete. The super strength, you know, that these guys bring to the table with their conditioning and the best fighting the best. And this could be a series of fights coming up. And I think that they're both going to bring the best out of each other. I actually see it like this. I think it's going to be very close. I think Crawford's going to win a decision. I do think he's going to put Spence in trouble pretty bad at one point in the fight, even dropping him at one point. It's going to be excellent, in my opinion.
But is it worth $89.99 for somebody for a square? Because listen, boxing depends on the squares. It just does. I mean, if you just relied on that, instinct boxing fans, you probably wouldn't make a whole lot of money. But every now and then, they get a fight that entices squares to buy pay-per-views. Unfortunately, unless they're named fighters like Ray Charles and Thomas Hearns, and they're black, they don't get over.
You know, it's tough to ask for people like we talked about, Pete, nowadays. And, you know, a lot of people, they want to see it. And boxing's in a great place right now. But you know what? If they find a way, a friend that knows how to do that sort of thing on a computer, I mean, that's a wrap. It's a no-brainer, you know? Do you want to save $100 or do you want to go to a friend's house?
Without yeah. Well, here's what's up. I think that I think that the Kambosos Haney thing that sort of left a bad taste in people's mouth, and of course the Kambosos and Haney thing that sort of left a bad taste in everybody's mouth. So 135, although Haney's a champ, sort of like there's all this other things out there for him to take care of. Of course, Shakur Stevenson turned down the 75-25 split. Why do you do that?
Well, that's a great question. I don't think he should have done that. Maybe they're holding out just for an extra little percentage of it. I think at the time to strike is now. 25% of that purse is not bad. Take a bet on yourself. Take a risk on yourself. I don't know why they didn't do that. If you believe in yourself that much, you could come there, and next time you're getting the bigger, purse, and the fight after that and the fight after that. That's life-changing money in the future. It's an investment. You take that fight against Haney now. But now it's too late, I believe.
Here's what Shakur Stevenson told Fight Hype.
I feel like if you watch Terrence Crawford, the first 3-4 rounds is like his brain is working. He's trying to figure you out. Then at the round 4 is like he got you figured out. After he got you figured out, he take over. So I feel like as the fight go on, he's gonna be able to take over.
What do you think? Gervonta had a prediction on the fight, and he said basically the difference is going to be Errol has a metal shield and Terrence has a glass shield. Punch resistance. What do you think of Tank's assessment?
I think Tank, he's cool with Earl, just like I'm cool with Bud. So he's just rocking with his mans. But as far as like a glass shield, when you're saying glass, you're talking about like his chin, right?
Punch resistance, yeah.
Is he saying like the chin?
Yeah, chin.
Like he can't take a punch? I don't know how true that is because I done seen Bud take punches and after he got hit, he come back even harder. So I don't know how true that is. I don't know what he's talking about.
What do you think is like counter punching the key to that's going to be the thing that separates them? Like, what's going to separate these two great fighters?
I think the man with the smartest IQ will win. Mm-hmm. The one that's the smartest fighter in the ring, and the one that figures out as the fight go on. I think they're going. But I know it's going to be blood.
Stoppage or decision?
I ain't getting into the
stoppage
prediction.
I think it's going to be a stoppage.
I think it's going to be a stoppage.
I'm preaching that. I think it's going to be a stoppage, but.
I ain't getting into the prediction, but I'm rocking with Bud for sure.
And then November 16th, that's the date we're hearing. It will be a Thursday. Is that what you hearing or no? That's
for who?
For yourself.
Oh, me?
November 16th? It would be the Formula One weekend. I think they got the Formula One weekend going on.
With who?
Yeah.
Huh?
With who?
With it's on the Strip. It's supposed to be a big deal, but I'm hearing that see reports today. Boxing scene that'd be November 16th. Possibly, not confirmed, but possibly you'd be back.
But I'm saying with who?
Oh.
I see y'all too.
I don't know.
So it's just
Who do you think?
So they said just Shakur is going to be fighting November 16th. They ain't say nobody else.
I didn't hear any potential opponents. No Kambosos, no Jermaine Ortiz, no.
Nah, I ain't talking about them dudes. I'm saying like the big people in the division, the top guys.
So there's a little speculation on Twitter, maybe Teofimo, but I mean, come on, it don't.
Nah, y'all.
Yeah.
Y'all making stuff up. Tio at 140. We not.
Of course.
Yeah.
So maybe Lomachenko or
anybody can get it. That's how I feel.
I want to see him in Lomachenko. That's what I want to see. I'd love to see that fight.
But do you feel like, even though a lot of people felt he beat Haney in the fight, that you get your credit with him coming off a loss?
I would give my credit because I'm watching. That's why I'm gonna give my credit when I fight him. So if me and Lomachenko fight, I'm gonna watch him, and then everybody's gonna understand why other people don't like to fight.
Shakur Stevenson laid it on the line. You are tuned to Ring Talk Live Worldwide. More with Johnny Sig after the break.
Remember in the beginning, when you first started?
I've loved, I've laughed and cried, I've had my fill.
El que deja de aprender, terminó su vida. El que sigue aprendiendo, sigue viviendo.
José Sulaimán! What has he got? If not himself, then he has not to say the things he truly feels.
Él me llevó por primera vez a una clínica de rehabilitación, como lo acabo de decir. Eso también se lo voy a hacer.
The record shows
light heavyweight titles. Circle that date on your calendar. He is a monster without a doubt. I think it's like 19-0 with 19 knockouts. Now, we go to Johnny Six. Johnny Six, straight up, give us those predictions and those odds for the fight on Tuesday. The Inoue fight.
Well, I tell you what, Inoue's favorite, and I got, in my opinion, he's going to knock out Steve Fulton under 6 rounds. Knockout.
Okay, and the main event, of course, we'll talk about Mr. Earl Spence and Terrence Crawford.
I got Crawford winning unanimous decision in a great fight.
Okay, what about the 97-year-old Donito Donaire?
He'll do okay that night. I think he's got one more in him to win a belt.
The residual effects of professional boxing, you and I have seen it over the years. I mean, is it really worth it? I mean, he's probably made a lot of money, a decent amount of money. His wife's his manager, and you know, maybe there's a time to walk away. I think the time is now.
I think it's certainly very close. You know, his faculties are all there. He's still got that $1 million smile, that great personality. He's one of the good guys in the sport. You know, without
a doubt. I just don't want to see him for 10 years from now selling pencils.
Exactly, 1,000%.
Okay. Now, last, I got to ask you this straight up: the pound for pound status in boxing right now, is it vacant? Is this fight going to dedicate who the pound for pound king of boxing is when these two guys, Spence and Crawford?
Yep, the best fight and the best. You know, at a time that most people feel that is the best time for both of them. Here we go. I think that would definitely end the conversation for now, the winner of Crawford and Spence.
Good enough. Until next week, Johnny Sieg, you have a great week. Without a doubt, talk Saturday, maybe, and Sunday for sure.
Thanks, guys. Have a great Sunday, everyone. Thank you.
The great John Signorello on Ring Talk Live Worldwide. Carlos, maybe Sin City Siggy. Is that his new nickname? Sin City Siggy. Bottom line is John Signorello knows boxing, no doubt about that, backwards and forward. You are tuned to Ring Talk Live Worldwide on WBC TV. Coming up in 6 minutes, we take a 6-minute break. A 6-minute break, and then we come back with hour number 2 of Ring Talk Live Worldwide on WBC TV. This is the Sports Byline Broadcast Network. My name is Pedro Fernandez, but hey, you probably know that by now.
You can't deny.
Devin Haney nació en San Francisco, California. Debutó en el año de 2015. Sus primeras 4 contiendas fueron en México. Conquistó el campeonato mundial peso ligero del WBC venciendo al dominicano Alfredo Santiago. Ha defendido el verde y oro contra Jorge Linares, Joseph Díaz, 2 veces contra George Kambosos y la más reciente en fenomenal y polémica contienda frente al ucraniano Vasil Lomachenko. Es poseedor de un estilo muy especial y de una gran velocidad para soltar los puños y para desplazarse a lo largo y ancho del cuadrilátero. Es un invitado especial en esta tarde de celebración. Es The Dream, Devin Haney.
I'm Frank Ripley, inventor of Frackwell, the boxer's water bottle. You're watching WBC Live channel, powered by VIVE.
Hello, this is Gabriel Ruelas. Stay tuned for WBC TV and VIVE Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, live from the West Coast, it's time for Ring Talk Live Worldwide. Your inside look into combat sports.
Ring Talk Live Worldwide is brought to you by the World Boxing Council, the WBC.
And now, the host of the longest running fight show in radio and internet history.
I am not these bubblegum dudes you talking to.
Pedro Fernandez.
He will be mine in round 9, and if he makes me sore, I'll cut it to 4.
Damas y caballeros, bienvenidos, ladies and gentlemen, coming at you from the multi-million-dollar sports pylon studios. Check it. This is Ring Talk Live Worldwide on WBC TV. Often imitated but hardly duplicated, 37, no, make that 38 plus years now of knocking out the competition. Who am I? My name is Pedro Fernandez. I am your ever so modest host. When I say modest, think caps. I'm a 4-time Golden Glove champion and I'm an award-winning writer. So I have a unique blend. But the average fan, you have a different point of view, a different perspective. So I open up the toll free at the top of each hour just for you. Ready? 1-800-878-7529. You want to take part in the show? You can. 1-800-878-7529. Chris was also the guilt-free, more popular, no-commitment text line. You can text me here in the studio. That number is 415-532-4867. Once again, the studio text line for Ring Talk Live Worldwide, 415-532-4867. Well, we anticipate some time with the retired HBO Godfather this hour, of course, talking Larry Merchant and heavyweights. Larry loves to talk heavyweights. Of course, he wants to talk about Jared Anderson, of course, the undefeated heavyweight that people say might be the next American threat. We'll also go into the Spence Crawford fight in depth. Of course, we are just 6 days away and 3 days away from the Inoue, actually 2.5 days away from the Inoue and Fulton fight, because it's going to take place like at 4 o'clock in the morning. So either you drink a lot of coffee or you do drugs or you don't go to sleep. One or the other. If you're a boxing fan, you want to watch that one. Stephen Fulton and Noah Inoue. It's going to go down July 25th at some ungodly hour on ESPN and ESPN+. You are tuned to Ring Talk Live Worldwide, of course, live on WBC TV, iHeartRadio, Sirius XM Satellite Radio, the American Forces Network, CRN. I keep going and going, but the bottom line is you are tuned to the longest running fight show in history, Ring Talk Live Worldwide, brought to you by the World Boxing Council and the man, the retired Godfather, of course, Larry Merchant will be here 20 minutes past the hour. You are tuned to Ring Talk Live Worldwide.
Manos de Piedra es todo un personaje en el mundo pugilístico, hombre carismático cuya carrera fue muy dura en sus inicios. Surgido del barrio El Chorrillo, Panamá, Roberto Durán se hizo boxeador profesional en 1970. Apareció por primera vez en México, ganando ese mismo año en la Arena México. En 1972, obtuvo su primer título mundial peso ligero en el Madison Square Garden de Nueva York. Su estilo y poder de puños lo convirtieron en un enorme atractivo para los aficionados y un verdadero ídolo dentro y fuera de su país. El primer combate contra Sugar Ray Leonard es épico. 20 de junio de 1980 en Montreal, Canadá, donde conquistó el Campeonato Mundial Welter WBC. Vendrían todavía 2 décadas más de espectáculo garantizado con manos de piedra hasta llegar a las 119 peleas disputadas. Ganó 103 y 70 terminaron antes del límite.
Now, more of Ring Talk with Pedro Fernandez.
But he has a shock in store for him. He has 2 great chances, Slim and none, and Slim's out of town.
Don King, the wire-haired wonder, the king of nap. That's why I used to call him the king of nap. He loved it. I called him king of nap. I had different nicknames for people. Some people like him, some people didn't. Straight up, Don loved that one. Speaking of Don King, of course, there was a point in time when Don King was on top of the world as far as the world of boxing was concerned. Of course, he controlled boxing as far as the heavyweights were concerned. Without a doubt, of course, he burst on the scene with Ali, of course, in Foreman. When he put that fight together, of course, in the jungle, the rumble in the jungle, he convinced President Mobutu to get basically donated. Mobutu bankrupted the country of Zaire at that point in time. It was Zaire, Africa at that point in time. Now it's called the Congo. But he cost him $6.5 million. That's what it cost Mobutu for the Don King to bring the fight over there. Of course, the fight came over there, and Don King was a star at that point in time. From that point in time forward, of course, all the great fights he put together, the Ali fights, the Holmes fights, and of course Julio Cesar Chavez, and of course the Mike Tyson era, without a doubt, that was all brought to you in part by Don King. But at one point in time, Don King ran afoul of the mafia. And when you run afoul of the mafia, especially in this country, things happen to you. Spit happens. When I say spit on the show, you know what I mean. Spit with an H, okay? At this point in time, it was about 1991, 1992, and Don King's about to get leaned on by the mafia. Let's check in with Sammy the Bull Gravano.
Boxing, gambling. Did you guys ever do anything with Don King? Any contacts with Don King?
Yes. I went in front of a grand jury. I was subpoenaed in front of a grand jury for boxing. When I was there, I was out with John Gotti. Mike Tyson was the Now I had another guy, and I can't think of his name. I knew the trainer, and I knew the black guy. I was training in the gym with him occasionally. He was a tough fighter, and he was a little bit over the hill. So I thought of a thing to set up a fight. I wanted him, and someday I'll get the name. I can't remember right now, but I'll get him to fight the champ in Italy. The champ in Italy was with 2 brothers who were both made guys in the mob. So I'm reaching them through the Italian people, I want this guy to come in and fight my guy, the black guy. And my guy will win. So he gets your belt. So if he wins and he has your belt, I want to hook up a fight with Mike Tyson, and I want big money because it's a championship. He's got a belt, you got a belt. The numbers are bigger. We know that Mike could probably beat you. Now, if the people around Mike want to make him duck a fight, I don't think he would do that. But then it's another story. But we never got that far. The Italian guy had to come here and fight a lesser opponent first before he fought my guy. And he lost to that guy. So now the thing is off. But in the process of all of this, John knows what's going on. I have a guy, a street guy, can't even think of his name, but he's going to Don King talking about a potential fight. He's not having a lot of luck. Don King stands up. He don't want to be part of this thing. He mentions John Gotti, this, that. I'm a tough guy. I went to jail for this and that and that. John, I'm not doing any of that bullshit. So the kid comes back and tells me. So I said, John, forget the whole thing now. It ain't gonna work. He won't do it. Don King won't do what we want. Did you tell him to mention my name? Yeah, I did. He don't want to be bothered. He said he's a tough guy. He did time. Really? Yeah. Tell the kid to go back, make another appointment, and kill him. You want me to kill Don King? No, not you. The kid, this guy. You want me to tell this kid to go back and kill Don King? Yeah, well, hit him with a proposal. If he says no, take a gun out and shoot him. All right. That's what you want? Yeah. All right. I grabbed the kid. He wasn't a kid. He's a guy, it was tough. Listen, you're going to go, you're going to hit him with this proposal. If he says no and gives you that shit, I'm a tough guy, take the gun out and shoot him. Shoot him right in the head. Kill him. You want me to kill Don King? I said, it's not me. John wants you to kill him. What do you want me to tell you? You got to kill him. He took off. The kid took off. I've never seen how to have him again. He must have left the country. I don't know where the he went. He took off. So we never went after Don King because I didn't want. I'm definitely not going after him because this is insane now. We're hitting the guy because he don't want to do a deal. We'll be hitting guys every other week.
Sammy the Bull Gravano, of course, on the hit that was proposed on Don King, the world's greatest promoter. This was all around Francisco Damiani. Damiani was an Italian national. At one point in time, he was a WBO heavyweight title holder, but he came over here across the pond, and he lost like big time against Ray Mercer. I think it was back in like 1991. But that was a fight they were trying to put together. Wow, Mike Tyson, they were trying to put Mike Tyson and Francisco Damiani together. But the bottom line is, Sammy Bull Gravano, he wasn't going to whack Don King. John Gotti thought nothing of it. Just whack him. Just whack him. Just Don King's a tough guy. Okay, just kill him. Don King didn't know he came that close to dying. Because seriously, the guy, because had Sammy sent somebody else out and the guy not left town, the guy went and killed Don King be dead, and all those great fights that we had. Then all those great fights we had wouldn't have happened. And there are people that the Don King detractors, of course, there's plenty of them. Larry Merch is one of them. But the bottom line is there are people that think that Don King was nothing but a bad guy, and he was scum and this kind of good stuff, and he ripped everybody off. And all I can tell you is about the personal relationship that I had with him, the personal and professional relationship that I had with him. Okay, at times he was tough. He could scream this and that. He was a promoter. I mean, when you worked him as far as the media is concerned, he was a rough guy to be around. But when I worked for him, as far as King Vision was concerned, when I did those telecasts, his King Vision telecasts in different parts of the country and around the world, he treated me like gold. He just did. I mean, he just treated me like gold. And I remember at one point in time, I had my daughter with me, and I had custody of my daughter during the weekend. During the weekend, this weekend. I didn't want to give her up on the weekend, this and that. So Don said, bring her to Vegas. So I brought her to Vegas, and we flew down there, and Don had a nanny waiting for me. I kid you not. So he says, Pedro, I got the nanny. I said, I already got it set up, Don. I already had my own nanny set up, but Don King set up a nanny for me. It was like 75, 80-year-old Don King at that point in time set up a nanny for me and my daughter. So he's done good things for me. And that's how you have to approach people. You can't really approach people, especially in the sport of boxing and in general in the world at large. You can't approach people with the way that they've gotten along with other people, because that's not always indicative of your relationship with them. I mean, I'm trying to say he wasn't a hard guy to deal with. He was at this point in time. Sometimes I remember fighting with him a couple of times over the money, over King Vision. I wanted $1,500. He wanted to give me $1,000. I think we settled it at $1,150. That's what it is. He won. You know what I'm saying? I wanted $1,500. He got settled $1,150. Yeah, he won. But that's the way he negotiated. Of course, I remember at one point in time when he had Hasim Rahman. Rahman had just knocked out Lennox Lewis for the World Heavyweight Championship. Of course, that was over in South Africa. We had Rahman on the show like 45 minutes an hour afterwards. HBO did the show. It was like a magnificent event as far as like South Africa because, I mean, Hasim Rahman went over there and knocked out Lennox Lewis. But Lennox Lewis was doing the Ocean's 11 movie, hanging out with George Clooney and those guys. Of course, not will say he was partying, but he was soft, and he went down there to South Africa and got his ass lit up. Of course, he came back and he beat Rahman in the rematch. And of course, what's Rahman famous for? What's Hasim Rahman famous for? Not for winning the heavyweight title. No, for having 3 dead bodies in the trunk of his car. I mean, think about that. Have you ever known anybody that had 3 dead bodies in the trunk of their car and they don't know anything about the dead bodies? I mean, think about that one. Oh, I was a cop. I mean, imagine somebody. Hey, by the way, Pedro, you got 3 dead bodies in the trunk. You got, say what? I mean, they've got to have the key to get into your trunk, right? Your key gets in the trunk. Bottom line is, I seen Rahman knew a little bit more than about the 3 bodies than he told us. You are tuned to Ring Talk Live Worldwide, your inside look at the world of boxing and MMA. Of course, the upcoming segment will feature the retired HBO Godfather, Mr. Larry Merch. Of course, if you want to talk to Larry, you can. Our toll-free is 1-800-878-7529. That's 1-800-878-7529. Because also, you can text me in the studio. You want to text the Godfather, retired HBO Godfather, you can text me. The number, studio text line is 415-532-4867. Once again, the studio text line for Ring Talk Live Worldwide on WBC TV, 415-532-4867. This is Ring Talk Live Worldwide, but hey, you know that by now.
Medallista de plata en los Juegos Olímpicos de Múnich 1972. Debutó como profesional en 1973. Luego de 20 knockouts en forma consecutiva, le llegó la oportunidad para disputar el Campeonato Mundial Gallo y lo ganó, derrotando al surcoreano So Hwan-hong por la vía rápida en 4 episodios. Era el año 1975. Realizó 5 defensas con el mismo número de knockouts, hasta que perdió el cetro a finales de 1977. Meses antes, protagonizó con Carlos Zárate un combate que fue un acontecimiento en México. Todo mundo hablaba de la pelea de las Zetas. El Dado de Tlatelolco se retiró en 1980 y es recordado como un pugilista espectacular que consiguió 32 knockouts en sus 33 victorias.
Now, more of Ring Talk with Pedro Fernandez.
Can I just
go for
give you one postscript? After that fight, I thought of something the great sports writer Red Smith once wrote. If you want to find out who won a close fight, ask a 9-year-old kid.
So check this out. I thought Larry referred to a 10-year-old kid, so I'm in the computer in the other room running through this 10-year-old kid trying to enter in the computer, and the impeccable one says to me, he was talking about a 9-year-old kid. I kid you not. The guy's not, I say he's impeccable. Straight up, this is Ring Talk Live Worldwide. We take it from the city by the bay, of course, to the city of angels. I bring the retired HBO Godfather, Mr. Larry Merchant. And how are you today, sir?
Well, I'm now a 92-year-old kid.
Yeah,
I'm fine.
All right. How's the godmama?
Well, we're stumbling along and looking out at the sea and enjoying our afterlives.
Okay, that's got to be the most beautiful view in the entire world. I mean, I won't tell people exactly. Yeah, I will. It's Santa Monica. This is like, I mean, that view from your balcony is like, wow.
Mm-hmm. That's one of the reasons we're here.
Yeah, exactly. And that's not the low red district, Larry.
It isn't.
It's not the low red district. No Section 8 in that building. Anyway, listen, the current crop of heavyweights, of course, Oleg Usyk going to fight Daniel Dubois, of course, from the UK. That's going to go down, I think, in a couple of months. But anyway, the influx of Arab money into boxing, the Arabs putting their money into boxing, do with the UFC, this and that. Is it? Why am I resistant to that?
Well, because it's brought on changes. Because everybody is hoping to get to that level. And their careers are shaped that way. And sometimes that's not the best for boxing. It's a change from the time when boxers made some modest monies that they had to fight often. And we thought that was great. So this is a different time, and we'll see who comes through it the best.
Okay. Are you surprised that Earl Spence and Terrence Crawford, I could buy an entire section of seats if I want?
They're super famous in the boxing world, but boxing fans have dwindled. This might be the best matchup in the mid to lower divisions since like Leonard and Hearns, when the whole world was watching.
Good point. No doubt about that.
Times change.
September 1981, of course, Tommy Hearns getting stopped in the 14th round. Referee Davey Pearl had enough. That's why he's seen enough, of course. And Tommy didn't complain, and Manny didn't complain. That was a perfect. If ever there was a perfect stoppage, that was it.
Well, there were two outstanding fighters, and Leonard was even a little more outstanding.
Without a doubt. Now, let's talk about the current crop of heavyweights. Are you high on Jared Anderson? He's 50-0 with 14 knockouts. Of course, the kid, I think, comes to us out of Toledo, Ohio.
Well, I saw him in that fight on television recently when he fought a 6'7" old pro.
Yeah.
And I'm impressed how good he is, how relaxed he is. I think he's the best young American heavyweight I've seen in a long, long time because he started his career in the gym, not trying to be a football or basketball player. So he has a level of sophistication that's unusual in this day and age. And I think he could go as far as he can go, and that's pretty high.
Okay, back to the Arabs. The reason why I brought up the Arabs a little earlier, of course, they've put all this money in front of Francis Ngannou, the former UFC champion, and Tyson Fury is going to fight him now. That's what I'm trying to say, Godfather. I think that the Arabs, the money they put into golf, I'm not down with that, and I'm not down with the money they put into boxing. You see why I've got a bad taste with the Arab money?
I understand it. It twists things in a way that we weren't used to. I'm not shocked that Tyson Fury is fighting toward the end of his career against a UFC champion or former champion, because it promises to be a giant event. And where there's a giant event, there are giant piles of money.
Good point.
That's in the old days, like Ali and others, and Joe Louis and others, they fought similar, but the same kind of fight, largely after their career, not during their careers. Maybe this is a signal that Tyson Fury's career as a serious heavyweight is over.
Yeah, but I mean, gypsies, I'm going to generalize them. As a policeman, the only contact I had with gypsies is when they were conning people and ripping people off and pulling slide moves and this and that. And I'll tell you one thing, here's a good one, Godfather. A gypsy psychic hired me as a private investigator to spy on another psychic. Well, I'm not kidding you. One from LA hired me to spy on a psychic on Haight Street.
Well, I'm not sure exactly what that means.
Neither do I.
But listen, they're trying to buy their way into international
sports.
Not just sports, but statesmanship and trying to be on a level with the U.S. and China and so forth. And that's their way of buying their way in. It twists and thwarts the way we're used to things being done, but it's called show business because it's show and business, and the same thing is true of sports.
Okay, but the press whacked Kawagi, the reporter, this. I mean, that whole regime. I mean, those people they're sadists.
I'm not going to go into all that because I don't know enough about it.
Okay.
But yes, I agree. They have a different mentality about how to rule a country, and that leads to different ideas. But I'm sure there are leaders, if you can call them that, in many countries around the world, South America and Asia and so on. We're no different.
Without a doubt. We're talking with the retired HBO Godfather, Larry Merchant, of course. Hey, Larry, just good news or bad news, but a guy got hit by somebody on a scooter and died here in San Francisco. So you getting whacked by that guy on the scooter and surviving, that's, what I'm trying to tell you is there's been others.
Well, it makes me feel a little lucky, I'll put it that way.
So do you have your eyes? Do you have eyes on the back of your head now?
I don't think so, unless I have some kind of psychic eyes in the back of my head.
Okay. Let's go April 15th, 1985. Of course, that was the day you and I met. Of course, the Hagler-Hearns fight, the afterwards, after party. Was that the greatest 3 rounds of boxing history?
Well, it was the greatest 3 rounds I ever watched. I was holding my breath for 8 minutes.
Me too.
It was spectacular, and those guys gave us a memory.
And you know what? Amanda Stewart keeps telling me that the fight would have been different had he not, had he been in the dressing room, because at Tommy had some girl came in the dressing room and rubbed his legs down and gave him a massage, and that sort of took Tommy's legs away from him. That's what Amanda tried to say. So Amanda sort of spanked himself for not being in the dressing room. I think he went out with Schuler or something like that. He had another fighter, and he went out with the other fighter. In the meantime, Hearns got a massage. Speaking of Hearns, great as far as punches were concerned, at welterweight, there was no harder hitter ever, was there?
I doubt it, but there were some really tough guys. Shamir Robinson was a welterweight for most of his life, and he could punch a little bit. And there were others.
That's what Gene Fulmer told me.
Gene Fulmer was a tough middleweight, and Ray Robinson knocked him out with one punch, a left hook.
This is what he told me. He said, if I had just ducked that one punch, my whole life would be different. I said, really? I said, you think that way? I said, because you were losing the fight. He goes, yeah, but the way I got knocked out, he goes, the people have been watching that forever.
Well, listen, I my first big fight that I ever covered when I was 26 years old was a Sugar Ray Robinson and Carmen Basilio, who is an outstanding welterweight at Yankee Stadium. And
but Carmen Basilio
was one tough, wiry, strong guy, and he won a decision from Robinson.
Yeah.
A year later, Robinson gave him a real boxing and fight lesson in Chicago.
Basilio insulted me on the show. He said I couldn't sing. I mean, he was. Sometimes I thought he was joking. Other times I thought he was dead serious. He wasn't the nicest guy in the world. Sometimes.
Well, hey, that's his profession, and that's supposed to be nice.
I mean, he called Emil Griffith all kinds of different names. It didn't make Emil feel good. I was there.
Yeah, well, that was long after they were both retired.
No doubt. Now, Godfather, what are you up to this week? What are you doing?
Well, I just sat and watched the Baseball Hall of Fame ceremony, which was very touching and moving.
Okay.
And I watched some baseball. I've got to go pick up a new pair of sunglass lenses, and I'll go for a bit of a hike, and then I'll come home and I read the LA Times and the New York Times, and someday that's like trying to read a book on one day. So it's a busy day.
Well, you have a great day. Kiss the God, Mom. I love talking to you. I thank you so much. I feel honored anytime I could talk to you on the phone. I do. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart, Godfather. I really do. I thank you for everything.
That's sweet of you, Pedro. Thank you.
The retired HBO Godfather, Mr. Larry Merchant. There's no other. Often imitated, but never duplicated. Straight up, this is Ring Talk, live worldwide.
I know that you want me, Lord have mercy, look in my eyes. Lord have mercy. Hide your feelings to revealing you can't deny. Can't deny.
Hey guys, this is Brian the Wine Punch Valoria. Stay tuned to WBC TV and VIVE.
Hi, I'm Karthik Satyanarayan. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Wildlife SOS. You can help save India's wildlife by subscribing to our YouTube channel. You can also like, comment and share this video. Thank you.
I'm Frank Ripley, inventor of Frackwell, the boxer's water bottle. You're watching WBC Live channel, powered by VIVE.
Two five five.
You use so many big words. How would you trick a man?
I'm not going to trick you. You know I'm not going to trick you, Mom. Wouldn't think of doing it. You're being extremely truculent.
Whatever truculent mean, if that's good, I'm there.
You are not a stupid boy.
Said those guys were the best thing on TV without a doubt. The 1-2 act of Muhammad Ali and Howard Cosell, it is unparalleled in sports and sports entertainment, straight up. Of course, Larry Murphy talk about Jared Anderson. Of course, Anderson 15-0, 14 knockouts. Of course, Charles Martin went the distance with him. Charles Martin being 6'5". Charles Martin came in at 29-3, but he was long in the tooth. But bottom line is he went 10 rounds. Of course, that was a good outing, I think, for both Charles Martin and Jared Anderson. But Anderson's going to take on a guy by the name of Andrew Rudico, something like that. Anyway, 35-6, a Hard Rock Hotel and Casino, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Looks like Tony Holden or Bryce Holden, of course, the promoter's son, and Tony owns a casino. Tony owns a casino in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I kid you. When you own a casino, you're like, you could talk smack. You can. I mean, without a doubt, you own the casino. I remember when I worked for the owner of the Imperial Palace Hotel in Las Vegas, Frank Ingolstadt. He told me this point in time, listen, son, the only one that wins here is me. I said, what do you mean? He goes, there's only one way to win in the casino. I said, he goes, to own it. I said, okay. Bottom line is, back in the day when I used to gamble, I gambled $20. You throw $20 down. If you lose, you walk away. If you win, you keep going. Because if you lose, the boss used to tell me he was watching me that's what he told me one point in time. I'm watching you, Pedro. I said, come on, man, you got to be kidding me. Seriously. I mean, no, I come in on the weekends to do radio and TV, right? And he's watching me on the cameras to make sure I don't spend too much money gambling. I kid you not. Anyway, bottom line is, I miss those days at the Imperial Palace. But as far as the top 10 heavyweights concerned, the fact that Oleg Usyk's going to take on Danny Dubois. Of course, Dubois not the most impressive guy on the entire planet, but Oleg Usyk, undefeated, of course, coming off the 2 wins against Anthony Joshua, not once but twice. Of course, he beat Anthony Joshua to the point where Anthony, I think, is exposed as being limited. He just says, I mean, I overestimated his abilities. I did. 2012 Olympic gold medalist, 6'5", 6'6". I mean, had a body like gold, like Adonis. I said to myself, hey, it looks like he can fight a little bit. But like Larry mentioned in the prior segment, he didn't come to boxing first. Jerry Anderson came to boxing first, okay? I mean, Anthony Joshua was playing basketball or football or something like that, or track, something like that. He had other sports, other interests before boxing came along. Boxing was a pay ticket. In fact, he talks about that right now. Anthony Joshua says boxing is nothing but a payday. Of course, Tyson Fury said that a long time ago. I'm just fighting for a few quid. That's what he said on this show. I'm just fighting for a few quid. Well, now it's like a few zillion quid. I understand. To get this, the Arabs are going to give him almost $250 million to fight Francis Ngannou in Arabia. $250 million. So that puts the other promoters out of business, okay? And I'm not trying to say that fighters should make money, but I just not involved. I just don't think the Saudi Arabians are the key to boxing success, not in the world, especially not in this country. Listen, those guys are like, they're murderers. I can't say no more. They're murderers. They treat women like spit. I mean, if you've ever been to some of those countries, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I was in Dubai for a long time. The only women that got respected in Dubai were the women wearing burqas. If you didn't wear a burqa, you were a hooker. I kid you not. That's how weird some of those Arab countries were. Anyway, bottom line is, I shouldn't get off on that. I'm going to get in trouble. But the bottom line is, at the end of the day, Oleg Usyk and Danny Dubois battling for the World Heavyweight Championship, or at least 3 or 4 of the belts. Tyson Fury is the linear World Heavyweight Champion, the WBC champion, undefeated in 30 fights. Like with that draw against Deontay Wilder, of course, he erased the draw not once but twice, of course, knocking out Wilder. But Wilder, he is the must-watch TV of the heavyweight division. I mean, he may be limited, he may not have a jab, he may be half-assed, but that half-ass is what I want to see. I do. He's sort of like, I won't say he's like Mike Tyson type of guy as far as knocking people out, but pretty close. I mean, he knocked out all the stiffs they put in front of him. He did. He knocked out me. He knocked out a lot of guys who were average. let's put it. This is what I'm being generous, being average. He knocked all the guys who are average, but the bottom line is he's much watched TV. Okay, him and Joshua, I don't want to see them go again. I don't know. I wouldn't want to see that. I take that back. Who I really want to see Tyson Fury fight right now, it's not Francis Ngannou. Okay, I'd like to see him fight Oleg Usyk because he says that he wants to be the undisputed world heavyweight champion. Well, I can get down. I'm down with that. But in order to be the heavyweight champion of the world and to be undisputed, you got to fight people. You can't be fighting in exhibitions. And Tyson Fury, the con man of con men, as I said, gypsies are known for conning people. That's what they are. And I'll repeat it what I said. I had a gypsy psychic hire. I'm a private investigator. AADINV.com. Anyway, check this out. I had a psychic hire me from Los Angeles, from Beverly Hills, California. A psychic hired me to follow another psychic on Haight Street in San Francisco. I may have given up too much information there, but the bottom line is, imagine if she was around. I was saying to myself, if you're a psychic, what the hell are you calling me for? And paying me $135 an hour? What are you, nuts? No, but that just shows how phony that stuff is. Anyway, straight up, you're right to Ring Talk Live Worldwide. As far as the heavyweight situation is concerned, I'm not the biggest fan of the current heavyweights. As far as the heavyweights concerned, people talk about heavyweights in today's world. They're talking about Canelo Alvarez. I mean, Dimitri Bivol, Terrence Crawford, and Noah Inoue. In other words, these guys are like heavyweights, but not heavyweights in the division. They're heavyweights in boxing. Of course, Inoue and Fulton about to go in, about 72 hours. Of course, come to us. So I'm across the pond on ESPN like 6 o'clock in the morning. Some unusual hours, some unreal hours. But the bottom line is this fight's going to rock, okay? And if Fulton's able to impose his will for a little while, more power to him. But the bottom line is the overwhelming consensus is that Inoue is going to roll over him like a train. I hate to say it, put it to you like that. Size doesn't matter here. I mean, size matters in two things, pornography and combat sports, but I don't think in this instance. Because I think that Inoue is a guy that's been forcing himself down to 115, 118, and now 122 pounds. I think he's struggling to make those weights. He's a growing kid. He's a bigger kid. He's got good height on him. He's good reach on him. His penches have pop without a doubt. But there's also some controversy involved as them hand wraps. I mean, them hand wraps. We'll see what happens come the fight time. Because the bottom line is the Japanese Athletic Commission, wink, wink, or the Japanese Boxing Commission, they'll be supervising the hand wrapping and all that kind of good stuff. So I don't know. I mean, here's what's up. You can't put tape on the hand first. In other words, like hard tape. You can't put that on the hand first. You got to put the soft stuff on the hand. Then you put some tape on the hand. Then you put but you can't put the hard stuff on first. Okay. And that's what they do over there, according to Nonito Donaire. Of course, he's going to be fighting next week on the Spence undercard at 40 years old. We give him the very best of luck, and his wife Rachel as well. But the bottom line is Nonito Donaire snitched him off, saying that they were playing with the hand wraps, that they would wrap the hand in tape first. You can't do that. I think it's illegal. I mean, it's not supposed to be done. But they do it in Japan. Are they going to do it Tuesday night or Tuesday morning, whenever this fight goes down across the pond? Are they going to do it? Well, the Fulton people have pitched a bitch, but I don't think it's going to work. It's not going to matter. Listen, the Japanese guys are going to roll with their guy. They're going to give him every advantage they can, wink, wink, without looking too obvious. I kid you not. I just mean that. I mean, this is the franchise. This is Japanese boxing. They've never had a fighter like this. Most of the Japanese fighters they had, you can blow over. I mean, I'm not there. They put the disclaimer up there. I see them putting the disclaimer up on WBC TV. I'm about to go off here. They put the disclaimer up. We're not responsible for what he says. No, but the bottom line is, before Inoue, Japanese fighters were sort of not. Even though they held world titles and that, I mean, there wasn't too many guys saying, whoa, remember that Japanese fighter, pound for pound, best fighter in the world? You don't see that. It wasn't happening. But now Inoue has put himself in that position. I think if he comes through with a big win over Fulton, I think I would accelerate him and put him in the vacant title pound-for-pound class as I speak right now. Because I said the aforementioned Saul Alvarez, 33 years old, 59, 2-2, stick a fork in him. Of course, the guy that conquered him, Dimitri Bivol, a bit boring to an extent, 21 is it, but he's 32 years old as well. Of course, 35 years old, Terrence Crawford, we talked about that. Him and Earl Spence. Earl Spence is 32, 33 years old. The combined age of these guys is almost 70 years old. If they were fighting at Caesar's Palace, it would be the geezers at Caesar's. That being said, I don't know how this is going to go. I really do. And I'm perplexed. I mean, dude, I really do. I mean, sometimes I'm leaning Spence. Sometimes I'm leaning Crawford. I mean, if you want to go ghetto, if you want to I would go Crawford. Yeah, I would. But the bottom line is ghetto doesn't always win. Okay, it just doesn't. Plus, Crawford's coming up in weight, and people say to me, "Oh man, come on, he's making the weight. He's making 147 pounds." Yeah, but he didn't start off at 147. He started off at 135 pounds, and Earl Spence came down from 154 to 147. Of course, that's where the money is at 147 pounds. But the money is not at the box office. I don't know what kind of purses these guys would get as far as guarantees are concerned, but if they're not selling tickets to the live event, chances are the pay-per-view is not going to go all that well. Of course, speaking of pay-per-views, the fraud. Ryan Garcia. I'm not a fan of Ryan Garcia anymore. I was, but the bottom line is he either took a dive or he went into the fight hurt, one or the other. But he made $30 million. $30 million. That's how much he pulled down. $30 million. Give him props. He made $30 million, but at least you could have went out on your shield. You could at least give us a performance that we could have remembered. Instead, you got flopped in the second round. You went down the second round. From that point forward, you were lost and delusional without a doubt. I think you were delusional before fight because when I saw Ryan go to the ring, I thought that was like a death march. It was like he was marching to his funeral or something like that. It wasn't a celebrating type of thing. It wasn't a thing, hey, I'm ready to kick some ass. It was sort of like, I'm ready to die. I'm ready to get slain. And what happened? He got slain. He got hit in the body. Do you think that shot was for real? Do you really think that? Eddie Hearn, the promoter, he doesn't think it was for real. He said, you can't say that Ryan Garcia didn't quit. You can't say that what he's trying to say is, you can't say that Ryan Garcia didn't take a dive. That's what he was saying. And you can't say that. You really can't. But him and Gervonta Davis generated a whole lot of money without a doubt. And Ryan's cut is going to be $30 million. I think he generated like $110 million, something like that. But everybody makes money. Gervonta Davis is making money. Davis is happy without a doubt. And speaking of Davis, he got out of jail about a week and a half ago. He looked pretty disheveled. That's a nice way of putting it. His hair was growing, hadn't shaved in a while, had that haircut. Bottom line, he was like just sneaking out the pen. All right, spent 30 days, of course, for violating court order regarding a hit and run accident. Of course, he got into a hit and run, and he's had some domestic violence issues. But the hit and run car charge, of course, that put him on probation, on house arrest. But the house that he was staying at, they didn't like him. They said it was too crowded. They threw him out. Bottom line is, he went and checked himself into an apartment, a condo that he bought that was worth a couple $1 million. The judge said, no, that wasn't what I was talking about. So he sent him to jail for like 30 days. But he's out of the slab. No future as to who he's going to fight. Of course, he is like 29-0 with 27 knockouts, 28 years old. Is he the face of boxing? He might be the face of boxing if Noah Inoue isn't. When Inoue comes in at 30 years old, of course. Let's go through the ages of the top 10 pound for pound, of course, according to BoxRec.com. The aforementioned Alvarez, Canelo's 33, Bivol 32, Crawford's 35, Inoue's 30. Gennady Golovkin, 41 years old. Did he go out with a thud or whatever? Did he really go out with a thud? What happened to Gennady Golovkin? Triple G, of course. At one point in time, Tom Laughlin, those guys were guiding him well, and he had Abel Sanchez in the corner, and that was a key. He had Abel Sanchez in the corner. So this week, Abel Sanchez came out and said something like, Abel doesn't knock on anybody. Abel doesn't spit on anybody. When I say spit on the show, I mean spit with an H. Abel just doesn't spit on anybody. He just doesn't do it. You never hear him talking negatively about anybody. I mean, I've known Abel since the 80s. I can't get him to say nothing bad about anybody, right? But he dogged Golovkin this week. He did. He said he went out with a thud. He sort of did. Of course, Golovkin did a money thing. He didn't want to pay the fee that he and Abel Santana had come to agree to. So he walked away from Abel Santana. From that point forward, he really hasn't had a whole lot of luster in his career. I mean, he is like the guy nobody really cares about. I mean, he needs his Grecian, what's Just for Men? Is that what I use for my hair? Yeah, that's what I use, Just for Men. He needs Just for Men. He deserves. I mean, after the fight, Gennady Golovkin was so great, it was unbelievable. I mean, he looked like my grandpa. That's what he fights like, a 41-year-old grandpa. You're tuned to Ring Talk live worldwide, 6 days away from Spence and Crawford, 3 days away from Inoue and Fulton.
I've loved, I've laughed and cried, I've had my fill.
El que deja de aprender terminó su vida. El que sigue aprendiendo sigue viviendo.
¡José Sulaimán! What has he got? If not himself, then he has not to say the things he truly feels.
Él me llevó por primera vez a una clínica de rehabilitación, como lo acabo de decir. Eso también se lo voy a agradecer.
The record shows I took the blows and did it my way.
Did you have an idol in the past, or do you have an idol now?
My idol in the past was Elvis Presley.
Elvis Presley es el ídolo que él ha tenido en el pasado.
Now my idol is Mr. Jose Sullivan.
Ahora su ídolo es el señor José Sulaimán. Is your first time here in Mexico?
I came through once, but I can't remember exactly what I did, but I was here once.
Exclusions apply. First month free with purchase of homewarranty.com.
With Pedro Fernandez.
The worst person in the world, Dana White. Every week, without a doubt, the president of the UFC is the worst person in the world. That's my opinion, straight up. You are tuned to Ring Talk Live Worldwide. You're inside looking at the world of boxing and MMA. We'll touch on the world of MMA. A couple of weeks ago, Holly Holm was stopped in the second round. Of course, Holly Holm being the woman that beat Ronda Rousey. She sort of exposed Ronda for being a one-trick pony. Of course, she's a former world champion as a boxer. I did a lot of her fights as far as a ring announcer was concerned down there in Albuquerque, New Mexico. But she's a great lady without a doubt, but she's long in the tooth. And she lost by a chokehold, a ninja chokehold, to Maya Silva. So the bottom line is she needs to walk away. I think she's like 38 years old. Of course, I'm not a big fan of Dana White. Dana White's got an event going on next week. Of course, that's going to be UFC 291, Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje 2. Of course, a rematch. Those two guys can fight. But the bottom line is I don't watch much UFC because I think it's just too brutal, and it's just not my cup of tea without a doubt. Now, let's talk about Spence and Crawford. Of course, 6 days away. I've been trying to, I'm trying to come up with a prediction, but I can't. I just can't. There's too many intangibles. It just is. And the one intangible I think that plays the most is the fact that Earl Spence was thrown out of that car at 115 miles an hour. Now, whether he was running somebody, whether he was running from somebody that chased him out of a club or something like that, the bottom line is he flew out the car. Okay, and the $10,000 gun flew out the car the other way. Anyway, but the bottom line is he flew out of the car, 150 miles an hour, had the brain damage without a doubt. I mean, you saw the blood around the cornea and the retina and this and that. Of course, that means he had a brain bleed, aka concussions. So he didn't walk away from that unscathed. Now, will that play a part in this fight? Who knows? He had some eye socket issues. Of course, that fight with Manny Pacquiao, as the great Johnny Signorella pointed out in our first hour of Ring Talk Live Worldwide. Of course, he canceled that fight with Pacquiao. And of course, that was an easy fight. I mean, Spence and Pacquiao, holy cow. Spence should have walked away. Spence should have had him for lunch. Of course, Manny Pacquiao, now 41 years old, speaking of the Filipino phenom, he wants to fight again. Why? You know, the wife wants him to fight again. I think, you know, it's about economics. Plus, he feeds a lot of people in the Philippines. So as far as one of the great fighters is concerned, he's a great fighter. But more important, Manny Pacquiao is a great humanitarian. So for that point in time, you got to give him props. He is the man, Mr. Philanthropist, Mr. Benevolence, without a doubt. May he continue to thrive in success. Speaking of thriving, this has been Ring Talk Live Worldwide on WBC TV. My name is Pedro Fernandez. I hope you realize that, of course, and tune in 11 a.m. Pacific time every Saturday and Sunday on YouTube, on WBC TV channel. We're all over the place. Bottom line is, you know where you're at now. This is Ring Talk Live Worldwide, often imitated, but never duplicated.